truth has overcome the lies, the good news of His Majesty in His Christ. And it is vital that we raise our tribal flag, the flag of the conquering lion of the tribe of Yehuda.
Millions of Christians throughout the world, Your Imperial Majesty, will regard you as the reincarnation of Jesus Christ.
Right here, Yahweh, our righteousness. It's a question from one of our brothers who came in, but I think it's worthy and even important to be shared with a greater audience. It's from our brother Zeru Music, and was linking us with cat named Yehuda Yisrael. Here's the comment, and we'll touch on our response. It says, "Hello fam, I was checking this cat named Yehuda Yisrael, and he enlightened me to the facts that Jesus Christ was an idol according to Deuteronomy 30, and the New Testament was constructed by the priests under King James, where once they finished fusing the Old to the New Testament, had all the priests' tongues ripped out of their mouths. I say this because I find that when I discuss the Bible with white folks, they refute the Old Testament as if to keep blacks with an enslaved mind. Plus, the Old Testament men of Yahweh lived to be elders, whereas Jesus and all the disciples except John died early, horrible deaths, just like MLK, Martin Luther King, and others that followed Jesus. Fam, what do you think about this? I ask you because I realize you are very knowledgeable about the Bible and I am searching for the truth. So what do you think? Plus, I wrote songs about Jesus. I just don't want to mislead people, fam, because I know how powerful music to humans, or music is to humans. At this point, fam, I can see where Yahweh, our righteousness, is coming from. I just wanted you to check the homie out, and in time, tell me what you think. In time, fam. It does not have to be right away. Thank you, fam. One love, Judah, Ethiopia. This is a very interesting question, a very interesting subject matter. It's a very deep subject matter. And some would just refute it right off. And I like what you said at the end, where you said to, you know, in time, check it out. You don't respond. You don't have to respond right away. But it's something that we've been meditating on. So it actually came in, you know, the question and the discussion. I'm also happy that you mentioned the brother Yehuda Yisrael, or Yahweh our righteousness. We checked out his site a couple of months ago, and he was speaking about some of the world, you know, the politics and the different movements in the world and everything. This prior to the election, and we found that some of his perspectives was at least right on as far as some of the history of the Old Testament. But just remember, first of all, this is not a simple subject matter. If you're going to say that, let's just deal with the beginning. If you're going to say that, well, Jesus Christ is an idol according to Deuteronomy chapter 30, it's not to say that that is a wrong point, but that does not mean that Yeshua, Yahoshua, HaMoshiach, or Yahoshua of Nazareth was an idol. You see what I'm saying? When we say King James is what, roughly around 1600, 1611, right? Now, if this is true, and we're not disputing that there's some truth to this, because when you study European and Christian history, I mean, let's look at modern day time. Now, hip hop and a lot of so-called black things, even the bounce. You remember that bounce that niggas used to do? You know, they used to bounce each other. Now, because of Barack Obama and the media and everything, the bounce now is becoming popular. You see how hip hop was? You understand? Hip hop came out the ghetto, talking about the, you know, the poor righteous teachers teaching the youths through the music, the real sufferers. Now, hip-hop has turned into something that has been commercialized. Now, if you were to look at the byproduct that has come about today in this present day and time, you would say that, well, hip-hop is a commercialized product, music to keep niggas, you know, enslaved to money and to materialistic ideas. You know, if you look at how hip hop has become, how it has been twisted. You understand how the evildoers have twisted all of everything they could twist towards their design. You understand? This is why we say that slavery, and this may be my most controversial point, especially with those who are maybe unstable and unlearned, to say that slavery was good for us. Slavery was good for our ancestors. It was good for us that slavery happened. Now people say, why you don't say this? You see what they did to us white folks? You see, because we're in this black and white checkerboard kind of construct right now, where most people are just looking at recent history and don't really have a clear idea of history. You understand? And our story, when you say King James didn't happen. We know what King James and the Catholic Church, and there was this whole religious fight and the Protestantism and the Catholicism and back and forth and all that. I mean, even European history, white people's history, or at least the history they tell us is their history, is very interesting. If you just study the history of Britain, most brothers, and I use that kind of loosely, but most niggers have not even really fully studied even white people's history, even to understand the history of the last 400 years, or even better than that, to study the history of the last 40 years. If you really study in detail the history of the last 40 years, the ins, the outs, the ups, the downs, the twists, the turns, the follies, the undercrowns that have happened in the last 40 years, it's amazing. I mean, it's a very interesting history. You know, you look at the whole civil rights movement. The civil rights movement and affirmative action, who has it really benefited? It has benefited white women, has benefited some black women, it's benefited homosexuals. You understand? It's benefited other so-called minority groups, but it has not benefited the original proclaimers of it. If you look at the civil rights movement, who began that movement, who really began the movement, not who the media, the fourth estate now spins a story to tell us who began the movement. But if you look at you see, this is to put everything in context. This is one of our themes when we tutor or teach, is first of all, you have to put matters in context. So is Jesus Christ nowadays an idol? Has YAHOSHUWA HaMoshiach, the true Moshiach, the true Messiah, been turned, and Christianity, so-called, been turned into idol? I mean, look at the name, Christianity. If you look in the Bible, they first were called Christians in a place called Antioch. Do you know where Antioch? Ask most Christians, where is Antioch? Point to Antioch on a map. Even if you give them a map of the area of the world where Antioch was, you know what I'm saying? With the name Antioch, they probably still can't find it. Point to Antioch on a map. So if you're going to say that Christianity, you understand, is truly what Christ came to preach, then you're a liar. Christ did not come to preach Christianity. Christianity is that byproduct of the movement of the Nazarene, the early followers of the Moshiach. For example, in the time of Christ, most people wouldn't even know this. You know, even so-called Bible, you know, Bible thumpers out there that says Jesus, 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 Jesus. You know what I'm saying? Most of them don't even understand that in the time of Jesus, even though really there was no time of Jesus, the time of Jesus actually is more modern. Jesus is a perversion of the name Iyesus or Iyesus, you know what I'm saying, which was the Greek way, because they lack certain letters from the Hebrew of saying Yeshua or YAHOSHUWA. You know what I'm saying? So as we start to go back into our history, we get to recognize in the time of JESUS Christos or YAHOSHUWA HaMoshiach, there were up to maybe 10 to 20 different movements. There were zealots, there were Herodians, there were Pharisees, there were Sadducees, there were scribes, there was the Sanhedrin, there was the Hellenists, there was the Herodians, there was the Essenes, there was, some say, even so-called Gnostics, there were the Nazarenes, and the Nazarenes was the only group out of all those groups we just named that was followers of YAHOSHUWA HaMoshiach. So if you were to say Jesus Christ to YAHOSHUWA HaMoshiach, he might say to you, huh? So that's like 2,000 years ago, roughly estimated 2,000 years ago. So The last 2,000 years of history has been twisted up a lot. So is it a fact that they have turned the living Messiah, the woolly-haired Messiah, into an idol that they call Jesus Christ, and white folks have, or white supremacy, Anglo-Americans have used this to extend their concept of empire? Yes, that is true. Is it? We'll definitely touch on those.
And when the Lamb opened the seventh seal, silence covered the sky.
The truth has overcome the lies, the good news of his majesty in his Christ, and it is vital